The invasion begins. The Galactic Dominion had ruled the stars for thousands of years. They had conquered hundreds of worlds, crushed countless species, and expanded their empire without resistance. When their scouts discovered Earth, they barely paid attention. A small blue planet with primitive technology. No space fleets, no planetary shields, no real defenses. The Dominion's High Council laughed at the reports. Another weak planet, another easy victory. Grand Admiral Xylon, the ruthless leader of the Dominion's fleet, smirked as he watched the holographic display of Earth. He had destroyed entire civilizations before breakfast. A planet like this, it would take less than a day. Deploy the fleet, Xylon ordered. Show these creatures who rules the galaxy. The invasion began with precision. 100 warships, each the size of a city, entered Earth's orbit. Their weapons locked onto major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Moscow. The humans had no planetary defenses, no shields, no warships to intercept them. Pathetic, Xylon thought. He turned to his second-in-command, Captain Rylus. Begin the bombardment. Let's make this quick. Rylus hesitated. Sir, something isn't right. Xylon frowned. Explain. Rylus pointed to the data stream. There's no panic, no evacuation, no distress signals. The humans, they're just watching. Xylon scoffed. They're too primitive to understand what's happening. Fire. High above the Earth, the Dominion warships charged their weapons. Energy cannons powered up, preparing to turn entire cities into ash. Soldiers in battle armor stood ready in the troop carriers, eager to storm the planet. And then, everything went wrong. Boom. Without warning, the lead Dominion warship exploded. A massive energy blast tore through its hull, ripping it apart in seconds. The shockwave sent nearby ships spinning. Xylon's eyes widened in shock. What just happened? He roared. Alarms blared. Reports flooded in. Something had fired from the moon. Something powerful enough to destroy a Dominion battleship in one shot. Another explosion. Then another. Warships were being torn apart by invisible weapons. The Dominion fleet, which had never lost a battle in centuries, was now under attack. Xylon gritted his teeth. Find out who's attacking us. A tactical officer gasped. Sir, the humans. It's the humans. Xylon's blood ran cold. The humans were not panicking. They were not running. They were waiting, watching, preparing. This wasn't a weak, defenseless world. This was a trap, and they had just walked right into it. Xylon stared at the swirling chaos of his fleet, his mind struggling to process what was happening. One by one, Dominion warships were being destroyed in ways he couldn't explain. Their advanced shields, once thought invincible, shattered like glass under the mysterious force. This wasn't supposed to happen. Report. I want answers now. Xylon roared, his voice shaking with frustration. The tactical officer, pale with fear, struggled to keep up with the rapidly changing data on the holographic display. Sir, the attacks are coming from Earth itself. But there's nothing visible. It's as if something on the surface is targeting us with immense power. Xylon clenched his fists. Impossible. The humans can't have this kind of technology. He turned to Captain Rylus, who was just as stunned. Captain, recall the fleet. Now, we need to regroup and figure this out. But before Rylus could speak, a new wave of energy pulses ripped through the void. Another warship exploded into 1,000 pieces. The Dominion fleet, once proud and invincible, was crumbling before Earth's unknown weaponry. We're losing the fleet, sir. They're coming from everywhere. Xylon's mind raced. It couldn't be true. It just couldn't. He had calculated every possible scenario, and none of them had involved Earth fighting back. He turned his eyes to the planet below, where everything seemed eerily calm. There was no panic, no sudden rise in military activity, only silence. What are they doing down there? Cylon muttered, his voice barely audible. On Earth, in the heart of their capital cities, humans were not hiding. They were not running to shelters. They weren't even trying to defend themselves in the traditional sense. Instead, humanity stood united, calm and confident, watching the skies. In the heart of the United Nations headquarters, world leaders gathered around a large glowing screen. Their eyes widened in disbelief as the Dominion warships above Earth fell one by one. The world's military leaders exchanged shocked glances, unsure how to process what they were seeing. But amidst the confusion, a single, clear voice rang out. We knew they would come eventually. It was only a matter of time. The voice belonged to Admiral Ethan Graves, the man who had spent decades preparing for this very moment. As the leader of humanity's united fleet, he had always known Earth's day of reckoning would come. He had been preparing for it in secret, training, developing technology, building alliances, and most importantly, studying the Dominion. This is the moment we've been waiting for, Graves said, his voice steady. Now we fight. Meanwhile, on the surface of Earth, the coordinated efforts of humanity's hidden defense systems were coming to light. The mysterious energy pulses emanated from a series of hidden weapons installations scattered around the planet. Built deep within mountains, beneath oceans, and hidden in the jungles, these weapons were humanity's ultimate trump card, leftover technology from ancient Earth, retooled and enhanced over centuries of preparation. They had always known this day might come, and they had done everything to ensure they were ready. Now, it was time to unleash everything they had. From the moon's hidden base, a massive cannon fired once again. The blast cut through space, reaching out with devastating power and obliterating the next Dominion ship in its path. The energy used in these weapons was so intense that it bent the very fabric of space itself. The Dominion had no way of tracking the attacks or predicting where they would come from next. The Dominion fleet was now in full retreat. Warships were abandoning the battle, retreating into deep space in every direction, and yet Earth's mysterious weapons never stopped. No matter how far they ran, the energy blasts continued to pursue them. They've got us trapped, one of the Dominion commanders screamed. Cylon, trembling with anger and disbelief, barked orders to his officers. Retreat. Get us out of here. But even as his fleet turned to flee, Cylon realized that it was too late. The Earth had awakened, and it had responded in a way that no one, not even the most advanced species in the galaxy, could have ever expected. As Cylon's ship began to warp out of the system, he glanced one last time at the Earth below. He had underestimated humanity's power, its ingenuity. This was not a planet of helpless, primitive beings. No, this was a world of survivors, a world of warriors, and they had just shown the galaxy what they were capable of. As the last of the Dominion warships fled the solar system, leaving nothing but shattered remains behind, Cylon sat in his command chair, staring at the massive holographic display in front of him. The image of Earth was still vivid in his mind, but now, a sickening thought gnawed at him. They had made a grave mistake. I underestimated them, he whispered to himself. We all did. The once proud Dominion, now scattered across the stars, was a broken shadow of its former self. Their fleets had been reduced to nothing, destroyed by an unknown, seemingly impossible force. The humans had done the unthinkable. They had won without lifting a finger, without even a show of physical resistance. Instead, they had unleashed an unknown power, a power beyond anything the Dominion had ever encountered. Back in the heart of Earth, humanity was celebrating their victory, but the leaders of the planet knew better than to rest on their laurels. This was only the beginning. There was still the matter of what would come next. The Dominion would not simply forget what had happened today. Their pride had been shattered, and their thirst for revenge would only grow. At the United Nations headquarters, Admiral Graves was addressing the gathered leaders, his face grim but resolute. We've won this battle, he began, his voice carrying the weight of responsibility. But the war is far from over. The Dominion will come back. They'll want revenge for their humiliation, and they'll bring more than just their fleet. We need to prepare." The room fell silent as the magnitude of his words sank in. The victory was sweet, but the challenges ahead were far greater. The Dominion would not accept defeat easily. They were an empire built on conquest, and no empire ever lets humiliation slide. But the humans had a secret that they had kept hidden for centuries. The ancient technologies they had developed, technologies that had been buried beneath the surface of Earth, were not just weapons. They were something far more dangerous. They were humanity's ace in the hole, their insurance against the galaxy's worst. And now, they were ready to be unleashed. Meanwhile, on the Dominion warship Nerveth, a group of elite scientists and engineers worked feverishly to understand what had happened. They had witnessed the destruction firsthand, but no one had been able to make sense of the human weaponry. How did they do it? One scientist muttered as he ran a simulation of the Earth defense systems. "The energy signatures, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. And the way they bend space, how is that possible?" Another scientist, equally baffled, shook her head. "I don't know, but whatever they did, it destroyed us. We need to regroup, analyze this, and figure out how to take Earth down before they can figure out how to use these weapons against us again. But if we don't understand how they work, how can we possibly defend against them?" Xylan's voice cut through the room, his tone cold and commanding. "We won't defend against them. We'll learn how to destroy them." The room went silent, all eyes on Xylan. The once confident leader now seemed driven by a hunger for vengeance, a burning desire to avenge the humiliating defeat. "We'll find out how they did this, and we'll make them pay for making a mockery of the Dominion." He turned on his heel and left the room, his mind already planning his next move. He had lost a battle, but he had not lost the war. Not yet. Back on Earth, preparations were already underway for what would be the next phase of humanity's defense. The fleet, composed of ships made from the ancient technology humanity had hidden for centuries, was being readied. Each vessel was designed to blend into the environment, to be undetectable by even the most advanced alien tracking systems. But unlike the Dominion, who relied on sheer numbers and firepower, humanity's ships were sleek, fast, and efficient. "They won't see us coming," Admiral Graves said, his eyes scanning the data on his holographic screen. "We've built a fleet that is as elusive as it is deadly. When the Dominion come back, they'll be in for a surprise." But as they prepared for the inevitable conflict, humanity still had no idea just how far the Dominion would go to seek revenge. They had shown their might, but they had also made a grave mistake in underestimating Earth's strength. The aliens had thought humanity would cower in fear, but instead they had learned that humans were capable of much more. And now, the next stage of the battle was about to begin. Xylan knew that this wouldn't be easy. The Dominion were a proud race, but they had never faced anything like humanity. The humans had their backs against the wall, but they had proven once again that when pushed to the limit, they would fight back with everything they had. And the Dominion would soon learn that challenging Earth was the biggest mistake they could have made. The Dominion was wounded, but not broken. Their defeat at Earth had sparked an unrelenting rage, a thirst for vengeance that consumed their leaders. It wasn't just about their pride anymore. It was about survival. They needed to reassert their dominance, and the first step was to find a way to crush humanity once and for all. Back on Earth, the air was thick with anticipation. Humanity had proven it could defend itself, but now the real test was about to begin. The Dominion would return, and when they did, they would bring every weapon they had. Admiral Graves stood before a massive map of the solar system, his brow furrowed in concentration. His officers were gathered around, their faces grim. They had won a significant battle, but the war was far from over. "The Dominion are mobilizing," Graves said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've seen their retreat, but that doesn't mean they're gone. They'll rebuild, and when they do, They'll come back with more firepower. We need to prepare for the worst." The officers nodded in agreement, their expressions a mix of determination and concern. They had seen what the Dominion were capable of, and they knew the galaxy's most fearsome empire wasn't going to back down so easily. The preparations for humanity's new defense force were already in motion. In secret locations across the planet, new ships were being constructed, sleek, silent, and deadly. They weren't just meant for defense. They were meant to strike first, fast, and without warning. "We have the element of surprise on our side," said Captain Marlowe, a veteran of countless space skirmishes. "We've learned from their tactics. We can strike before they even know we're there." But Admiral Graves knew it wouldn't be enough. The Dominion had far more resources at their disposal, and their thirst for revenge would make them dangerous. Humanity couldn't rely on speed and stealth alone. They needed a decisive advantage, and that advantage lay in the ancient technologies buried beneath Earth's surface. "Activate the project," Graves ordered, turning to his second-in-command, Commander Hartley. "It's time to bring the rest of our fleet online. The Dominion may have powerful weapons, but we've got something they can't even begin to understand." Commander Hartley's eyes widened with understanding. "Yes, sir. It's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of." Across the stars, the Dominion warlords were assembling their forces. Xylan had been in constant contact with his commanders, organizing the most extensive military campaign the galaxy had ever seen. They would take Earth back, or they would perish trying. "This is more than a war," Xylan muttered to himself as he paced around his war room. "This is a lesson. We will show them that they are nothing compared to the might of the Dominion." His commanders stood by in silence, waiting for orders. Xylan's voice, once calm and measured, was now filled with an almost palpable fury. "Prepare the fleet for the final strike. All forces are to be deployed within the next 72 hours. We will leave nothing behind. Earth will fall." Xylan turned to face the holographic map, his gaze cold and unyielding. His fleet was ready. The best soldiers, the best ships, the best weapons, all of them under his command. He was confident, too confident, perhaps. He hadn't accounted for the full extent of humanity's power. Back on Earth, the countdown had begun. The defense fleet, now assembled in secret, was ready to move out. The ships had been designed with a singular goal in mind: to outmaneuver and overwhelm the Dominion. They were built for speed, for surprise, and for destruction. "We can do this," Commander Hartley said, standing alongside Admiral Graves as they prepared for the launch. "They may have the numbers, but we've got the technology. We've got the will." Graves nodded, his expression unwavering. "Yes, and we've got something they don't have: the heart of a united Earth. They may think they know us, but they don't understand the power of our spirit." The fleet set out, and as they did, the first of the Dominion's warships appeared on the edge of the solar system. The battle was about to begin. As the Dominion's fleet entered Earth's atmosphere, they found the planet's defenses much stronger than expected. The mysterious ships that had defeated them once before were now waiting for them in full force. The humans weren't just defending. They were striking with precision, their ships appearing and disappearing before the Dominion could react. "They're everywhere," shouted one of the Dominion commanders as their ships were systematically destroyed by an unseen force. "What kind of weapons do they have?" Xylan's face contorted with disbelief as his fleet struggled to keep up with humanity's relentless assault. "How are they doing this?" he muttered. "We have the numbers. We have the firepower. We should be winning." But he didn't understand. Humanity wasn't relying on overwhelming force. They were using something far more dangerous: strategy, ingenuity, and the element of surprise. Back on Earth, the battle was still raging in space, but the humans knew this was just the beginning. The Dominion's fleet might be powerful, but they had no idea what was coming next. As the Dominion struggled to maintain their footing, Earth's forces began to deploy their secret weapon: the one that would change the course of the war forever. The Dominion had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The fleet, once confident in its overwhelming power, was faltering. The tide had shifted in space, and the battle for Earth was now about to take a turn none of them had expected. Admiral Graves stood at the command center of the flagship, his eyes fixed on the large screen in front of him. The Dominion warships, once a terrifying sight, now appeared disorganized and desperate as they attempted to regroup. "This is it," Graves muttered to himself. "They thought they could crush us, but they have no idea what we're truly capable of." The countdown had begun. A new weapon, something the Dominion could never have predicted, was now ready for deployment. It wasn't just another weapon of mass destruction. It was something far more devastating, something that would change the course of warfare forever. Behind him, Commander Hartley approached, her face grim but determined. "Admiral, the system is online. We can launch at any moment." Graves took a deep breath. The weapon, hidden beneath Earth's surface for centuries, had been activated. It was part of an ancient project that humanity had long forgotten, a relic from a time when humans first discovered the stars. And now it would be humanity's greatest advantage. "Launch it," Graves said. His voice was calm, but inside, he could feel the adrenaline building. In space, the Dominion commanders were losing their confidence. Their fleet, once so imposing, was now retreating, their numbers thinning with each passing minute. They couldn't understand how the humans were managing to fight back so effectively. Their ships were faster, more agile, and their tactics far more advanced than they had ever anticipated. "What's happening?" Kylan's voice echoed through the command room as he watched the holographic map. Its ships were being picked off one by one, each loss another blow to his pride. How are they able to do this? His second-in-command, a seasoned warlord named Zorath, turned to face him. "The humans are using some kind of advanced technology we've never seen before. They're moving faster than we can react. We're losing control of the battlefield." Xylan's eyes narrowed in frustration. "We have to regroup, find a way to push them back. They can't keep this up forever." But even as he spoke, something changed. A massive energy surge rippled across space, like a shockwave racing toward them. The sky seemed to twist, and then suddenly, the humans' fleet fired the first shot of their secret weapon. The blast was unlike anything the Dominion had ever encountered. It wasn't just energy. It was an immense force that seemed to distort space itself. Ships closest to the blast disintegrated in an instant, leaving behind only debris. "What the hell is that?" Zorath gasped, staring at the screen in disbelief. Xylan's face turned pale as he realized what was happening. "This is it. This is the weapon they've been hiding." The shockwave continued to expand, and the Dominion fleet's formations began to collapse. Their ships, once organized and formidable, were now scattered and vulnerable. The humans had a weapon capable of breaking through their strongest defenses, something the Dominion had never anticipated. On Earth, the celebration was subdued. Though the weapon had been a success, the war was far from over. The Dominion would regroup, and they would come back with a vengeance. But for now, humanity had gained the upper hand. "We've done it," Commander Hartley said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We've shown them that Earth is not a planet to be trifled with." Graves looked out the window, his gaze distant. "We've only just begun." The countdown had ended, and the war was now at a critical juncture. The Dominion might be retreating, but their leaders were determined. They would find a way to strike back. But humanity had proven one thing. They were ready. And with the weapon in their arsenal, the Dominion now had something to fear. In space, the last remnants of the Dominion's fleet were trying to regroup. They had suffered severe losses, but they weren't going to give up without a fight. "Prepare the remaining ships," Xylan ordered, his voice filled with cold fury. "We're not finished yet. We will return, and when we do, we will show them what it means to challenge the Dominion." He knew their pride had been shattered, but their rage would only make them more dangerous. Earth's victory was fleeting, but the war was far from over. Back on Earth, the humans weren't resting. They knew the Dominion would return, and when they did, the stakes would be even higher. The secret weapon had given them a momentary advantage, but it wouldn't win the war. They needed more, and they needed it fast. Graves stood tall as he addressed his officers. Prepare for what comes next. This is only the beginning. We'll fight them at every turn, and we won't stop until we've pushed them out of our skies for good. The fleet was ready. The countdown was over, and humanity had made its first true mark on the galaxy. The victory had been brief, but sweet. For a moment, the human fleet stood victorious, their ships gleaming in the depths of space as they watched the remnants of the Dominion's forces retreat. It was a victory that had sent ripples through the galaxy. But as the days passed, the excitement began to fade, and the gravity of what came next settled in. Admiral Graves stared out of the window of the command center, his eyes fixed on the stars. The battle had only just begun. The Dominion may have been beaten back, but they wouldn't stay down for long. He knew it. Everyone knew it. They won't give up easily, Graves muttered to himself. Commander Hartley entered the room, her face grim. We've received a transmission from the Dominion. They've regrouped and are preparing to strike again. Graves nodded, his expression hardening. I knew it wouldn't take long, but now we have a choice to make. We can't wait for them to come to us again. We'll go to them. The human fleet had been battle-hardened by the recent fight, and now it was time to make a bold move. The Dominion was reassembling its forces, preparing for a counterattack, and the humans needed to strike first. They couldn't afford to let the enemy regain their strength. In the cold, dark vastness of space, the Dominion fleet had indeed recovered, though their pride had been shattered. Xylan, their commander, was determined to regain their lost honor. He paced back and forth in the command room, staring at the holographic map as it displayed their current positions. They think they've won. They think they're safe, Xylan said through clenched teeth. But we'll show them the true power of the Dominion. We'll make them regret their foolishness. Prepare for full deployment. The Dominion had learned from their mistakes. Their forces were now more cautious, more tactical. They had regrouped, and they had a plan, a devastating plan that would leave humanity reeling. Xylan's eyes narrowed as he gave his orders. Launch the first wave. We strike at their most vulnerable points. The Dominion fleet had brought reinforcements, and they were coming in full force. This time, they would not underestimate their enemy. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Graves was gathering his fleet for the next phase. The attack on Earth had failed, but the Dominion hadn't given up. The next battle was sure to be bigger and bloodier. Humanity would have to fight harder than ever before, and they would need every ship at their disposal. Get ready, Graves said to his commanders. This is going to be the fight of our lives. The Dominion won't stop until they have Earth, but they're about to learn why they shouldn't have challenged us in the first place. The humans knew the Dominion had the advantage of experience, but humanity had something they didn't: determination. Every soldier, every officer, every fighter knew what was at stake. Earth was their home, and they would defend it to the last breath. As the first wave of Dominion ships launched, the human fleet began to move. The battle lines were drawn once again, but this time it would be different. The humans had learned from their previous victories and defeats. They were faster, more precise, and ready to push the enemy to the breaking point. Admiral Graves led the charge, his flagship cutting through the stars at breakneck speed. The Dominion had sent their reinforcements, but the human fleet wasn't intimidated. The time for retreat was over. Now it was time to push forward. In space, the first engagement was swift. The Dominion ships came at them like a wall of metal and fire, but humanity's fleet met them with everything they had. The enemy's tactics were predictable, but the humans had evolved, using guerrilla warfare tactics, surprising the Dominion at every turn. They're faster than we expected, one of Xylan's officers reported. Their ships are more maneuverable than we've seen before. We need to adjust our tactics. Cylon's frustration grew. No more adjustments. We hit them with everything we've got. No more hesitation. On Earth, the news spread quickly. The Dominion had struck again, and humanity was once again at war. The planet was on high alert, and the whole world rallied behind their fleet. The message was clear. Earth would not fall. They would fight, and they would win. Graves knew that this was only the beginning. The Dominion had made their move, but humanity wasn't finished yet. The tide of the war had already turned once, and it would turn again. The fight was far from over. The battle raged in space, with both fleets locked in a deadly dance. Ships exploded, debris scattered across the void, and the sound of battle echoed through the vast expanse. It was a fight for survival, a fight for the future of Earth. But as the battle raged, a new threat emerged. A new wave of Dominion ships, even larger than before, appeared on the edge of the battlefield. Their weapons were powerful, capable of causing mass destruction, but the humans were ready. "They're coming at us with everything," Graves said, his voice steady despite the growing chaos around him. "But we're not backing down. We'll show them the strength of humanity. We will win this war." The final showdown was drawing near. The fate of Earth and the entire galaxy would be decided in the next few hours. The humans had made their stand, and now they would see if the Dominion's arrogance could be defeated once and for all. The battlefield was set. Space shimmered with the light of distant stars, but it was no longer peaceful. The battle was raging, and every ship in the human fleet was ready for the fight of their lives. Admiral Graves stood at the helm of his flagship, watching the chaos unfold around him. His eyes were sharp, his mind focused. This was the moment. This was the final battle. The Dominion fleet had gathered its full strength. Countless ships lined up in perfect formation, each one bristling with advanced weaponry. They were determined to finish what they had started and crush humanity once and for all. Their arrogance had only grown since their first defeat. Now, they were prepared for everything. "They think they have us cornered," Graves muttered to his crew. "But we know their weaknesses. We've studied their tactics, and we know what they're capable of. Today, we end this." The communication systems buzzed with a message from Commander Hartley. "Admiral, we've intercepted their command frequencies. We've learned their formation plans. They'll launch a full assault in 5 minutes." Graves nodded, his face hard. "Prepare the fleet. We don't wait for them to come to us. We go to them." He turned to the tactical officer. "Bring up the strategy we discussed. Full speed ahead. All ships, engage at maximum firepower." As the human fleet surged forward, the Dominion fleet responded in kind. The two forces collided like a storm, and the universe seemed to tremble with the force of the impact. Explosions rocked the space between them, lighting up the void like distant suns. The sound of weapons fire filled the air, the raw energy crackling through the empty silence of space. But the humans had an advantage: strategy. The Dominion's forces, while larger and more advanced, lacked the adaptability of the human fleet. The humans had fought tooth and nail for every inch of territory they had gained, and they were not about to lose it now. On the Dominion flagship, Cylon watched as the human fleet surged toward them, the gap closing quickly. He had underestimated them. He had believed their initial retreat was a sign of weakness, but now he saw it was simply a tactic, a move to regroup and reorganize. The humans were smarter than he had thought. "They're pushing forward faster than we anticipated," one of his officers said. "They're using their smaller ships to outmaneuver us." Cylon's hands clenched into fists. "No more mistakes. Focus everything on the human flagship. If we can take down their leader, we take down their resolve." The Dominion ships pivoted, focusing their fire on Graves' flagship. Hundreds of weapons targeted the ship, massive blasts of energy shooting toward them from all directions. The human ships swerved, evading most of the incoming fire, but the sheer volume of it was overwhelming. Graves didn't flinch. Brace for impact. Shields at maximum power. The ship shook as blasts struck its hull. The force sent tremors through the entire crew. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered, but Graves remained calm. All fighters, engage. Take down their shields, and give them no chance to recover, he ordered. The fleet moved like a well-oiled machine. Fighter ships, each piloted by the best humans Earth had to offer, dove toward the Dominion ships, weaving in and out of enemy fire. The space around them was filled with explosions, twisting, spinning ships, and flashing laser beams. It was chaos, but the humans were not afraid. They fought with all the strength, precision, and fire that their ancestors had shown in countless battles before them. On the ground, Earth's people could only watch, hoping and praying. The news broadcasts showed the images of the battle in space. The sky was filled with bright flashes as the Dominion and human ships clashed. The fate of Earth hung in the balance. In every corner of the planet, humanity held its breath. Would they survive? Would they win? Would the Dominion be driven away, never to return? "Come on, just a little longer," one soldier whispered under his breath as he watched the battle unfold on the screen. Back in space, the Dominion flagship was struggling. Their forces were not as coordinated as the humans, and their arrogance had been their downfall. Graves' flagship continued to lead the charge, pushing into the heart of the Dominion fleet. The human ships had learned their enemies' patterns, and now they exploited every weakness. Graves watched from the command deck as the enemy flagship came into view. This is it. This is our chance. With one final, coordinated strike, the human fleet launched everything they had at the Dominion's command ship. The explosion rocked the very fabric of space, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the Dominion fleet began to fall apart. Without their leader, their ships lost coordination. Human ships, with their smaller, more agile designs, moved in, picking off the disoriented Dominion vessels one by one. "It's over," Graves said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We did it." The remaining Dominion ships began to retreat, fleeing back into the dark corners of the galaxy where they came from. The humans had won. Earth was safe. As the human fleet watched the last of the Dominion ships disappear, Graves felt a sense of relief wash over him. They had done it. Against all odds, humanity had stood its ground, had shown the galaxy just what it meant to challenge Earth. The war was over, but humanity's place in the galaxy had forever been secured. "This is just the beginning," Graves muttered, watching the stars flicker once again. "The galaxy will never forget what happened here." Humanity had proven that no matter how dark the odds, they would rise, and they would never be defeated.